Good evening. I'm Brian O'Connor, Chairman of the Planning Commission. It is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, 6:01. I'm calling this meeting to order. 6:01. I will now call on the following elected members to speak up as present. Paul Aurelia.
Present.
Sarah Graham.
Present.
Alec Vacola.
Present.
We are also joined by our alternates, Brian Sturbis.
Present.
And Tammy Lynn Morse.
Present.
We also welcome Susmitha Toda, our town planner, Aileen Marsh, recording secretary. I'd like to remind everyone that we have no public hearing items for review tonight. If any of the members wish to speak on any item on the agenda, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Please identify yourself by name and title each time you would like to speak. The public is free to listen but may not speak, only at the invitation of the chair. The first item on the published administrative agenda this month is the approval of our February 15th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vacola would like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Commissioner Sarah Graham would like to second that.
Second up for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. First topic on our, or the next topic, I should say, on our agenda is Section 3, Zoning Commission Referrals. This is the first Zoning Commission referral we're looking at is the text amendment on Section 31-Lordship Boulevard Housing Zone. Looking for a motion now just to open this up for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Paul Aurelia, Zone 5. I'll make that motion.
Need a second?
Second by Commissioner Vacola.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I want to refer to Susmitha now to just open up the conversation.
Thank you, Chairman. So, as you might have read in my staff report, this application is proposal to create a new section in the zoning ordinance titled Section 31 Lordship Boulevard Housing Zone, which would apply only to 225 Lordship parcel. So the applicant is also requesting a zoning map change because currently it is mapped as being part of CA zone. So the recommended change will only apply to this parcel, as I mentioned before. And the whole intent is to develop this into a multifamily residential building with approximately 100 units, of which 30% would be set aside as affordable deed restricted units pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-30G requirements. So I think this is a good thing for Stratford, which is, wanting to enhance its number of affordable housing units in the town. The location is also ideal because it is located along a transit corridor and closer to retail services, and there are also light industrial uses nearby and warehouse distribution center like Amazon, where there's a number of jobs that can be occupied by these potential residents. Also looks very positive. The proposal also meets the Plan of Conservation and Development's many objectives regarding housing, as stated in the staff report. But most importantly, this particular proposal also meets the housing plan that was developed last year as part of Housing Partnership's efforts. I only suggest, you may take this recommendation or may choose to not accept this recommendation, but my only guidance as a professional is to encourage Zoning Commission to consider including some language on floodplain impacts and stormwater impacts because it is located in a flood zone. So having that language in the regulation would actually bring the applicants, whoever is going to potentially develop the site, their attention to this particular concern and issue and adequately address it. Other thing I would say is also to consider housing plan recommendations regarding affordable units, because sometimes what happens is these units are deed restricted for a certain period of time, and then after that period of time expires, they become market rate units, and the town would not be able to credit these as part of their affordable housing count. So this housing plan recommends requiring that affordable units in a set-aside development be restricted for 40 years or the life of development, whichever is longer, to avoid affordable units coming off the list in the future and avoid a financial windfall for whoever may own the unit after 40 years, and consider requiring an affordability easement or other encumbrance so affordability restrictions do not get foreclosed out without notice to the town. So these are the new recommendations that were part of our housing plan. Our housing plan was adopted as an amendment to POCD last year. So these are, part of our POCD updated document last year, which I think the commission could very easily translate in their communication to the zoning commission, who may not be aware of this in the housing plan. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Paul Aurelius. So Smith, I have a question. When this is, I realize this is for the text amendment tonight to authorize it, right? When the actual project gets done, that comes back to us to review, or that goes right to zoning?
Development review is part of zoning commission's purview. So the planning commission's roles and responsibilities are only to advise on the text amendment and map change. Look at municipal improvements like 8-24.
Right.
Or, look into special plans and studies and develop new plans and studies. And the last one is, I'm missing something, subdivision review. So development review will be conducted at the zoning commission.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody else?
I'm just
Tammy.
curious. This is Tammy, alternate. It says 1.5 parking spaces for 2-bedroom. I just curious what that means.
I'm going to refer that obviously to Smith, please.
I'm assuming they used the TOD zone standard that we currently have for the town center for multifamily developments, where we have, a reduced parking requirement because of its accessibility to transit. So I'm just assuming that they probably followed the same threshold for that. Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing that theoretically, and this is just solely so I can understand it, 30 units would have 30 spots and then an additional free 15 unassigned, right? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Smith?
If there's no questions, Paul Aurelius, Zone 5, I'd like to make a motion, and that's that we recommend approval of the text amendment, and with the recommendations, all of the recommendations that Smith has made. I believe there's a total of 5 of them. I could read them, but they're in the documentation here, so I'm not sure I have to, but.
Yeah, I can write it in the staff letter.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Can I get a second?
Second, Commissioner Vacola.
Put that to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. There's 2 parts on the agenda for zoning commission referrals. The next zoning commission referral, that zoning's looking for a referral for the text amendment on section 15B to include adult use marijuana facilities and producers. Just at this point, we're going to open it up for discussion. Can I get a motion to open this up for discussion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
So again, this is zoning commission's just looking for a referral from the planning commission. 15 it's in reference to 15B, which is currently is a document that pertains to medicinal marijuana. They're looking to make a change to it in lieu of the SB, or state statute SB 1201, to, instead of saying medicinal, to add add adult use to the language. Again, we're going to open up this to discussion. I'm going to ask first Mr. Smith, if you don't mind, to just give us an overview.
Sure, thank you. So, as you may all recall, in January, this commission discussed a cannabis regulation as part of an informal review. At that time, the commission had no facts in front of them like we do right now. I mean, the commission did not have an actual text amendment language to review, and there was no feedback from the other departments, no input from the general public. So in the absence of all of that, the commission decided perhaps this could be part of the POCD process, Plan of Conservation and Development Update process, and so they recommended a six-month moratorium. But in the meantime, after a month, Zoning Commission decided to actually, amend the language in Section 15B of the zoning regulations, which is currently on medical marijuana, to include recreational adult cannabis as part of, what is permitted and allowed. Both production and disposal facilities. So when this was recommended, our staff typically reaches out to all the departments for their input. We received feedback from police, health, community services. We also reached out to the town attorneys. And based on the language that was, provided to them for their review, they suggested certain modifications or, their comments on how security should be, or distancing requirements, or considering the impacts in general to the surrounding area in terms of odor and anything else that they could, think of. At this time, there is no public input here because it's an administrative review only for the Planning Commission. But there will be public input next week for this matter at the Zoning Commission meeting on March 23rd. So now that there's more information to review and more feedback from other departments and staff, I think it is safe to say that, this, in whatever form, if you would like to recommend for approval, you can recommend it as is, or if you think that there should be some modifications based on what has been submitted to you in the staff report on the comments from other departments, you may want to just consider that. Your role as the Planning Commission is to look at it from, the impacts to the nearby land uses, and, if this is a unique use in that zone, how would this function?
Thank you. I'm sure there's going to be questions and comments, so just please wait to be called on, and so we're going to open this up for more discussion now. Does anybody have any initial statements to make? If not, if you like, I could go. Obviously, again, just as a reminder from a Planning Commission, they're just looking for us to, do a reference, if you will, with our recommendations, so we can accept and we can add things that we'd recommend, or we cannot. But through discussion, I think that we could come up with something that would be helpful for the Zoning Commission. So, we always look at things that have to be. We look at the POCD first, the Planning and Conservation Development, and if it's going along parallel with the Planning and Conservation Development, there's a couple things that were pointed out in the notes. It is consistent with the POCD when looking at redevelopment and reuse of industrial and commercial retail. It's consistent with, it's certainly consistent with economic development. Does anybody else, those are two things that I picked out from, or that was picked out from the POCD that are consistent Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns?
I just want to add something.
Please.
I forgot to mention that there is a cheat sheet provided on the statute by Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, CCM. And in that, if you look under zoning authority and restriction, in terms of what you can do as a municipality, these are the three things. You can either prohibit them from opening or reasonably restrict their hours and signage, or restrict their proximity to religious institutions, schools, charitable institutions, hospitals, veterans' homes, or certain military establishments. So these are legally possible options for municipalities.
Now, just following up on what you just said, is that not, or those three items, are they not included in 15B as is?
There, the language in 15B suggests to consider the, distances and consider all, some of these issues, but does not place any mandatory distance requirements or, require them to operate in certain, hours. And I think that is reasonable because this is a special case, this is going to be part of a special case review if any developer comes with the application. So that will probably, be more site-specific, and then you can understand where, on which site would the impact be and how this can be implemented more efficiently. Because right now, as the regulation states, it can be allowed in LB, LBB, CA, CF, CN, MA, MC, all the commercial, industrial, and civic center zones. So it's very hard to, predict how, this would impact community facilities nearby and what kind of distancing should be required.
So just to kind of continue with this conversation, again, going back to 15B, it does recommend, it does guide, and what you had mentioned before on those three items. However, it does offer guidance, but if there is no actual proposal in front of the zoning commission, therefore, they would refer to this as guidance before they approved any such facility. Am I taking that? Is that
Yeah, that's what typically happens in a special case review process. And if it's, for example, if it's proposed in, on Main Street, you have Stratford High School, and then they can decide if, how much of buffering is required. Or maybe the zoning commission, because the regulation is written in such a way that it automatically says consider and not asking you to restrict, maybe the commission may choose to vote for its approval anyway, because the language says consider and it doesn't say restrict.
understood? Does anybody else have any comments?
Yes, I have a question going along with that. If you're saying consider, and I see where that's written in the, I don't know what to refer to this as. The text, no. From the state guidance. However, in the text amendment, they have it in 15B.4 that it would, it specifically says separation requirements of no less than 1,500 feet from any other site containing.
Another marijuana
Oh,
facility.
I'm sorry, I didn't fully read that. Where does it
So this language is in
have consideration? I see it. Never mind.
15B.1, in the last few
Consideration of
lines, it
proximity.
says, a site plan indicating the proposed location of the marijuana facility, the location of all other land uses identified in this ordinance within a 1/2 mile radius of the proposed location, and the setbacks to those land uses is required. It is the responsibility of the applicant to research the uses on the surrounding properties and accurately identify the distances and separations as required. So they're asking them to document it and what kind of an impact it will have on the neighborhood. That's the extent of review that's required on this.
Thank you.
And it says here, I'm sorry, it does say the commission shall take into consideration the proximity of the premises to residential areas, religious institutions, schools, playgrounds, parks, public or private recreation areas. So it's actually asking you to consider under 15B.1.
Correct.
Tammy Morse, I guess if I'm understanding it, I kind of like considering as opposed to restricting, because what if it's 50 yards, right? But it's the perfect location, and it is, but it happens to be, 3 feet or something. So the consideration gives a little bit of latitude in that, and it's not a hard line.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Suswitha? Paul?
A couple of things. One, the town attorney review, that wasn't an in-depth review of the new statute. It's, I know it's 295 pages. It's kind of a lot to go through.
Yes, so because this is a zoning commission application, and Jay Hibansky staffs the zoning commission, he said he sent to the town attorney and all other departments, and he hasn't heard back anything from the attorneys.
Okay. Okay. All right, that, and as to the distances, I'd be a little concerned, again, and I get that it's the zoning's purview to decide how far from what. I know we're one of the only towns that's, if we pass the text amendment and then it goes forward, or if we recommend passage and it gets passed, we're gonna be one of the only towns around that has one. So I have a feeling it's gonna be busy. I'm just hoping they take that into consideration as far as residential zones and things like that go.
May I suggest something? Mr.
Yes,
Connor?
please.
If you wanted to, I mean, if you're all generally okay with this regulation, but you want to raise that for their concern, I mean, we can specify in the letter that commission is definitely concerned about the impacts and would like for zoning commission to take a closer look at how these impacts could be minimized.
Just more comments while you guys are thinking. One of the recommendations was to not, this was a recommendation coming from, excuse me. Sorry. So this was a recommendation coming from the Director of Health and the Director of Community and Senior Services. They had recommended in their feedback regarding this 15B to not include recreational and rather to consider it as adult use. If we were to move forward and make the recommendation to make the amendments to this current language, I would strongly suggest that we strike recreational out of 15B.1, the first line. Just in reading, I would say to keep consistent with the recommendations. Paul?
Okay, well, just one more comment, and I know we originally looked at a 6-month moratorium, but in practicality, the reason for that was so that they could get input from the town departments and from the public. It looks like they're doing all that. As a matter of fact, some of the input from the town departments is in this new text amendment. They've already incorporated it. So I'm kind of inclined to be okay with the text amendment. I'm just thinking I want to make sure about the town attorney review. The Director of Health and the Director of Community Service both strongly suggested that because of the length of the law, it's new, that the town attorney look through it to make sure there's not some impact or something that's being overlooked. And I think that's probably a smart thing to do. So I think in the end, I would like to make that one of the recommendations if we move forward with this. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that. Again, I'm not looking to slow it down. 295 pages is a big bill, and I just want to make sure that they have everything covered that they need to.
You know, just to go along with and answer your question, Paul, I would, you know, I agree. You know, this is a big decision, and it's a new environment for everybody. It's uncharted, you know, particularly in Connecticut, obviously. This is a new statute. I would agree with you that it would be worthwhile, you know, having an attorney fully review the document. As long as it's still, it's a decision that could last a long time also, so I think it's worth it, and I would agree with you. Just as a reminder, again, as a planning commission, all we're doing is making recommendations. So, you know, it's just another question that came up just while we're talking. You had mentioned that there is going to be a public hearing with the zoning commission. That's correct? Yes. And that public commission is going to hear the public prior to their final decisions on these text amendments. Is that correct?
Yes, the final decision is with the zoning commission, based on the public hearing process.
Okay. Sarah?
So I have another recommendation as put in the letter from the health director and community services director. You had mentioned to take out the word recreational, which I agree with that, but a couple other things that they mentioned was adding the restriction of in 15B.5, the signage. They included the first thing that they mentioned of the exterior and interior outward-facing signs, but they also suggest restricting sandwich boards and sign twirlers. And I don't know if that's inclusive in the wording restricted to a single sign no larger than 24 inches by 36 inches. However, I do agree to recommend the restriction of sandwich boards and sign twirlers. And then the second thing was that they recommended to consider odor control for the neighborhood or the area that the building is put into, and I don't see that added to the text amendment. So I see that there's security requirements and requirements for the type of building, but not odor control, and I think that is a very good point to point out. So those are my two recommendations to include.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Brian Sturbis.
Thank you. Brian Sturbis, alternate. Just for me, when I'm thinking about it, you know, I do think that you would need to have space requirements like 1,500 feet from a residential area and things of that nature. Just because, I mean, you have people that mortgage 30-year mortgages in their house, and now they got this place open up next to them if they wanted to. If there wasn't regulations like that in board, I mean, I feel that, and you know, you need to have it kind of tucked away somewhere else, rather not in sitting on Main Street in the middle of a neighborhood, 1,500 feet from a home, in my opinion.
Thank you. Paul.
I believe that was the police chief's recommendation when I looked through it.
Yes, it was. Did they, failing to remember, did they specify in 15B, I'm going to refer this question to Switha.
Mr. Connor, you may want to state for the record that Commissioner Boyd has joined us in the meeting.
Okay. You're here now.
Just for the record, William Boyd has joined us. Quite all right. So again, this question is really for you, Smith, and I'm not sure if you have this memorized, 15B or not. Is it clearly stated the 1,500 square feet from, you know, the parks, it doesn't look like it is, the religious areas, school institutions? Is it possible that we could make the recommendation to add the 1,500 feet into this?
Yes, when you're adding something like that, try to visualize where this could go. Because, for example, if you're talking about LB zone, which is right in front of Town Hall, like all these properties here, we're all surrounded by residential, and 1,500 feet, you can't get, production dispensary facility in this zone. It's very hard. I mean, you should also have a property that's available, first of all. And if you look at commercial areas like Barnum Avenue, they directly abut residential uses. There is no 1,500 buffer there. But if you look at our industrial areas, like, for example, Lordship Boulevard, Research Drive, and all those areas, perhaps there is place there where this could go. The catch, though, is that it says it should be at least 1,500 feet from an existing marijuana facility. I think, is it 1,500 or, yeah, 1,500 feet. So there is one already on Research Drive that's being proposed, and it was recently approved, but this was before the state statute, and that was, on Access Drive, I'm sorry. So that should be not closer to that one, 1,500 feet, away from that, away from the residences, and where, there's no impacts that you're thinking about. So think about it as a commission, what you think is the right thing to do.
Mr. Chairman, do we,
Paul.
and for Sumitha, do we have to set a distance, or can we say that I know it says they'll consider distances, and I would ideally like to set a distance, or recommend a distance, we don't set it. But is it possible to just say to them that, the location as it relates to residences is critical, and it just needs to be, I'm just trying to think of a way around setting a distance, because it's hard.
Maybe you can say in your letter generally that, the commission is still concerned about how this would impact residential areas, and some sort of distance requirements or buffering requirements must be, included in the regulation to minimize those impacts. And that kind of pretty much covers it. And, the zoning commission, based on public review and input, and based on town attorney's input by that time, perhaps could arrive at a decision that is more factual based. And also, you don't always have to have a distance requirement. Like I said, landscape buffering can help minimize impacts too sometimes.
Okay,
And Mr. Boyd has a question.
William
Yes,
Boyd?
William Boyd, Zone 2. Considering the 1,500, I think to Mr. Aurelia's point, it could be in a strip mall. You have Dunkin' Donuts, you have all kinds of other businesses. It could lie within a strip mall business, because that's not near residential, or that could be near residential, but it's still within other businesses, so it's not an isolated situation. So I think in a established commercial zone, I think we can amend the distance part as long as it's within a commercial zone already. But commercial zones are near residential already, with all manner of businesses, liquor stores, gas stations. I don't see this being it's not a cocaine dispensary, it's a legal business. So I don't see how that could be treated more differently than another business that's in a residential area, because they're transacting. I don't see how they could be prejudiced against, because they are transacting business, as other businesses are, whatever those businesses are. That's my
Yep, Mr.
question.
Chairman, yeah.
Paul?
That's my big concern is about homes, and one of the reasons is because I have a feeling, and I said this before you got here, but we're going to be one of the only, I think it looks like the way things are falling out, we might be one of the only towns around that's doing this in the short term, so I suspect we're going to have a lot of traffic there. So with that in mind, I just don't want it to impact people's houses, parking, on-street parking, that kind of thing. So that's what I am worried about getting around that.
To his point, a strip mall already impacts people's houses. You go to right there on Lordship, that corner there, you got Dunkin' Donuts, you got Family Dollar.
Again,
None of those affect.
sorry to interrupt, but I hear what you're saying. Strip malls, we're not talking about strip malls tonight. We're talking about something that's uncharted territory. I get what you're saying. But in respect to, this is a little bit more of a delicate situation than putting a Family Dollar in. We're talking about, you know, making something change that hasn't been here before. So I think we should go at it with that, a delicate way, you know.
But again, I don't understand how that's, what I don't understand, if it's legal by state statute and it's regulated, it's a different kind of business that people may not want near them, but yet and still it's a business. It's not a nefarious business. It's not a strip club. It's not another liquor store. It's a business. So if it's a business, I don't understand why they would be held to a different concern as long as it's 1,500 feet and it's not in a residential. I don't understand why they would be looked at more adversely than another business. I'm not sure I understand that.
And again, I agree with, it is going along with what you're saying, yes, it is a business, but I think you could agree that it's a little bit more delicate than, like I said, putting a coffee shop in or something. Like, we have to take considerations of, you know, everything from school zones and all of these things. And again, it's been brought to, you know, one of the recommendations from the chief of police was to put a 1,500 square foot distance from residential. And I think that, again, from a planning commission, we are only making recommendations.
No, I agree with that.
And we're not here today to choose the spot. You know, we're looking for recommendations, and I think that, again, we should treat it delicately because it's a little bit more of a, it's a new thing. It's different, and there's got to be restrictions on it. And so it's not to dispute what you're saying. It's just to say, like, we can't treat it like a coffee
Well,
shop.
again, you're not disputing it, but you're not agreeing with the premise. I agree, 1,500 feet. I'm agreeing, but not every commercial zone is within 1,500 feet of a school. It's just not.
So
within those areas where there's a possibility that they're not in a residential zone, you have the 1,500 feet not near a school, I'm saying in that consideration, there shouldn't be a necessary prejudice against it if it meets those basic concerns. I agree, it's a more delicate business, but if it meets the basic thing we said, not zoning, but the 1,500 feet.
So, yeah, we're looking, so would you, based on what you said, Mr. Boyd, would you agree with saying we would recommend that you strongly consider keeping these facilities 1,500 square feet, is 1,500 feet away from residences and, you know, schools and all?
Yes, I'm agreeing with that, and I think that is easily solvable. Yes, I'm agreeing with that.
Okay, so we just went around in a full circle, but we made it back to the same spot. That's good. It's not what, it's fine. That's fine.
Tammy Morris, alternate. I'm just going to go back. I want you guys to really, I agree. I first absolutely agree. Don't want them near schools, childcare, you know, all of those things. Absolutely. But there is, yes, there are empty spots for businesses, but there's also some spots, and I'm not thinking of one specifically, that are have been vacant for a long time, and it could be a good opportunity. And if it's 1,100 feet and not 1,500, is there a way to maybe strongly recommend 1,500? But is there, and I don't know the laws and how to write them, but is there a way to maybe give them a loophole that there could be, on a case-by-case basis, there could be an exception?
Just again, as a reminder, all we're doing as a planning commission, we're making recommendations.
Well, I'm
So-
asking, can we
Right,
put that in our recommendation?
Right, well, and part of the recommendation would be, it's not a written law, if you make the recommendation, sorry, Mrs. Smith has something coming.
Yeah, she brought up something really interesting, and that made me think. Maybe you could say something like, recommend a 1,500 feet buffering distance from schools and all these uses to the extent possible, and where it's not feasible, at least require a landscape buffer or some kind of a physical buffer between these uses so that the impacts are
A
minimized.
case-by-case
On a-
basis
yeah.
or something, it can be reviewed if it's not the 1,500? They still need approval and have to present why it would be okay? I
Again-
just hate to put something so hard.
No, and again, everything, what you're saying is going to be on a case-by-case basis per application through zoning, and these are recommendations, and what you said, we can potentially add that to if the
But if
commission
we,
agrees to.
if we recommend that you put 1,500 feet, and they take that, then there would be no review on that. That would be absolutely a requirement, right?
It wouldn't be a requirement, it would be a recommendation.
No, we're recommending, but
No,
if
yeah, right,
if
but-
zoning accepts it, then it's part of the statute. And
Yeah,
there would
I
be
mean,
no,
if you soften it up by saying to the extent feasible and where, clearly, like she said, if it's only 1,400 feet and not 1,500, in those cases, at least require a physical buffering, or, through landscaping. Maybe that would actually give options when zoning commission is reviewing these applications, to have some sort of minimizing of impacts in those cases.
I'm going to do the hard part here. I'm going to try to put a motion up.
Write this down, Aileen.
Okay. That we recommend passage of the text amendment with the following recommendations.
Sorry, are you making a motion, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making a motion that we recommend passage of the text amendment with the following recommendations. And it's going to take me a little bit here.
Take your time.
Okay. Number one is that the change be made in section 15.B.1, recreational be struck, and just adult use, marijuana. Again, as per the Health Department and Community Services recommendation. Second one I'd like the second recommendation is that the town attorney, and they may be going to do this already, but that the town attorney thoroughly look at the 295-page statute to determine what kind of impacts it's going to have on our land use issues here, so that it's fully understood. To Sarah's point, that we add consideration of restriction of sandwich boards and sign twirlers, again, per the Health Department and Community Services recommendations. That we consider odor control per the Health Department and Community Services recommendations. And last but not least, the one we just talked about, is that when, and I got to figure out how to word this, that we recommend that distances to residences, schools, churches, all of the listed places be considered based on the impact of those places. I'm not sure. I'm thinking for a minute. Or that if 1,500 feet is a long distance, so I'm just trying to wrestle with that. That maybe the zoning commission come up with a set distance. Recommend that the zoning commission come up with a set distance from all these areas that'll provide for minimum impact to the neighborhoods, minimum impact to schools, daycare centers, et cetera, instead of doing a broad consideration. I think that's it.
Can I get a second?
Yeah, sorry. That's okay.
Aurelia recommends the passage of the text amendment with the following recommendations. 15B.1 recommends recreational will be struck down change to adult use. 2, town attorney review of the 295-page bill regarding impacts of land use. 3, consideration of the sign, see Sarah's comments. 4, consideration of odor control, and 5, the zoning commission could determine a set distance from schools, from homes, schools, and churches.
Can I just add to that last one? Just and also take into consideration if they can't meet the 1,500 square foot buffering, take into consideration adding landscaping some way to enclose the area or divide it off,
Paul was not recommending 1,500 feet.
or. Sorry, so can we just strike that and add the landscaping to, with the buffering and in those considerations to add landscaping to help buffer the zone?
I have a question. If you're gonna add landscaping, that means that building has to almost be standalone. It can't be amongst,
We don't have,
I don't understand how you would add landscaping to a existing area. I'm not sure.
Answer.
yes, please, Smith.
So I said to the extent feasible, consider a distance requirement, and where it's not feasible, to encourage landscape buffering. And coming to Mr. Boyd's question on how buffering can happen in, sites that have shared parking, you can still buffer the rear of the site from residential uses. Like if the site is facing towards a commercial corridor, but the rear has residential uses, and if there is, I don't know what the attorney's review would come up in terms of odor, and if there is a strong odor generating facility, the landscape, could be carefully implemented to actually minimize the odor impacts, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We're not at the discussion part. So are you're satisfied? Does everybody understand what Paul's motion is?
So were we adding in what you just added? How does it?
Do you want Aileen to repeat the whole list?
I would say, if you don't mind, Aileen, can you repeat the whole list? And this is, again, as a reminder, this is based off of Paul Aurelia's motion to accept,
Passage of the text amendment with the following recommendations. 15B.1, recreation be struck to adult use. Town attorney review of the 295-page bill regarding impacts of land use. 3, consideration of sign, what did Sarah say?
In B.5.
Removing sign restriction and sandwich boards and sign twirlers. Consideration of odor control and 1,500 feet buffer from homes, schools, and churches as, when feasible, and if not, landscape be added to the extent that it is possible.
Can I add something?
yes.
I think it is considered a set distance requirement instead of 1,500 feet
That's
distance.
correct.
I'm sorry, Sismitha, what does that mean, what you just said?
I was just repeating Paul's. He said to consider a set distance requirement to all those uses to the extent feasible, and include landscaping.
Oh, got you.
Is everybody clear on the motion? Can we get a second?
This is Commissioner Graham, and I second that motion.
I'm going to put this to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Aileen.
Oh, my pleasure. That sounds sincere.
Nope. Okay. We're going back to the agenda. We're now at item 5 on the agenda. This is 8-24 review. This has been sent from the town council. The town council is looking for the planning commission's referral to potentially market and sell 433 Highland Ave property. Can I get a motion to open this up for conversation, discussion?
Paul Aurelius, Zone 5, I'll make that motion to open for discussion.
Can I get a second?
Commissioner Graham to second that motion. All
All in favor? Aye. So again, this is just, standard, the 8-24 is town council. There's a property, 433 Highland Avenue, that was acquired through tax default. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Samantha just to give us an overview of this item.
Sure. So this is a very straightforward request. The Planning Commission usually recommends an approval or approval with conditions or a denial to the town council on municipal improvements. Like text amendments, you look at the land use impacts and consistency with POCD. So in this case, it's a foreclosed property that was acquired by the town, and now the town wants to put it on the market to make it taxable. So I think it is consistent with the following objective of the POCD, prioritize disposition of tax foreclosed properties to private owners for residential development. And it meaningfully, helps the property blend with the neighboring properties by, promoting owner occupancy.
Thank you, Samantha. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Does anybody like to make a motion on this item? Paul Aurelia?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we recommend, I think we're going to recommend the sale of the parcel by the town.
Okay. Whoa. So we're looking to, sorry, I don't remember what she said because everybody was talking at me. We're looking to approve, sorry. And recommend. Approve and recommend to the town council the sale of property 433 Highland Ave.
Okay. Yeah, that would be my motion.
Mr. Chairman, it is for both marketing and sale.
So marketing and sale of 433 Highland Ave.
Marketing and sale of 433 Highland Ave. That's my motion, that we recommend that.
To the town council.
William Boyd, Zone 2, agree, also second that motion.
William Boyd
To
seconds.
market and sell.
Thank you.
Property.
All in favor?
I think you should also state your reason for approval, like consistent with the POCD's objective.
Okay. Paul, if you don't mind, can you start the motion over and then also reference the POCD and reasons why we are accepting this? Aileen offered to announce it for you, if you'd like.
So you're looking to make a motion to approve and send to the town council with a favorable recommendation for the marketing and sale of 434 Highland Avenue, since it is what?
433.
433 Highland Avenue, as it is consistent with the POCD.
That's my motion.
Does anybody second that motion?
Commissioner Graham, I second that motion.
Thank you. Let's put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimously. It's a tough one. Okay. The rest of our agenda items are purely discussion. There's no one No commissions looking for our referral. Recently Sarah Graham has been, appointed to the Greenway and Complete Streets Committee. She attended her first meeting, and we appreciate your time and service, so thank you. So Smith, if you don't mind, could you just give us, an overview or an update on the Greenway and Complete Streets Committee?
Sure. So the minutes of the meeting are enclosed along with this package that you got. And Sarah Graham was appointed as one of the members, and Brian Sturbis as one of the alternates to the Complete Streets and Greenway Committee. The committee discussed the walking routes that were developed for seniors by the health department. Currently health department has those routes in in digital format. But the committee is looking to create paper maps of these to hand distribute amongst seniors in the town, especially those in housing authority buildings. So they also discussed on improving the routes for accessibility by walking the routes physically to identify broken sidewalks and areas which need improvement for ADA accessibility. So, in fact, one of the committee members, Tom Dillon, also reached out to me separately to know more about this, and he said he's going to walk a few of those routes himself as a starting point, and that's the status.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah, do you have anything to add, or Brian, anything to add?
Not at this time.
No worries. Moving along, this is very big for all of us as the Planning Commission. Again, we're on the precipice of beginning the new plan of conservation and development. This past week, it's been a couple weeks, and going through bids, we had 8 great bids, and a lot of, just very, very knowledgeable people on POCDs and planning and development. We're happy to announce that after a lot of deliberation, we've picked FHI Studio as our consultant to help with the new POCD. So Smith, do you have anything to say or comments you'd like to?
I just want to update on my conversation with the selected team this morning. I requested them to provide us a detailed scope of work before we enter into a contract, so that we can look into it and see if there are any items that could be added to that list or eliminated, especially with respect to public engagement. So the good thing about this consultant team is that they have an in-house videographer who can create short videos. And it has been the selection committee's vision to promote larger community engagement in the POCD process through, videos that are disseminated in the social media and on the town website, or maybe have a separate interactive web page for the town residents. So I reached out to them and I said to provide us a list of things that they can do in terms of community engagement and the costs that are associated with that, if they're not already in the budget that they quoted. And I will bring that list to the commission members' attention. Like, I will email you all, because this is a time-sensitive matter. We want to enter into the contract before April 15th, which is, I think our next planning commission meeting is around that time. So at least, if you can review that by email, and if you have questions or thoughts about this, you can feel free to reach out to me.
So just again, we've selected, there's a few things before they're actually contracted. Being part of the committee, it's exciting to see such quality, companies coming to bid for the town of Stratford, and to be able to narrow it down to one was not easy. So it's exciting, and trust me, it's going to be good. They're really strong with their community engagement, which is something that's gonna help us understand, everybody from every corner of Stratford, what they want, how they see the plan of Stratford going, the future of Stratford. So it's gonna be, we're excited about it, and, get ready, because it's gonna be a lot of work. So, for us too, but it's gonna be good. With that being said, unless anybody has any further comments, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'd like to motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, guys.